The reason you're not making any money on TikTok anymore is because the creator rewards program ran out of money. Yeah, that's the honest truth. The only money is going to large top tier
Huh.
creators like an
It's a
Alex
new take
Earl
on
or
it.
Michaela, those who have millions of followers, like millions and millions and
Who's
millions of
Michaela
followers.
and Alex
So
Earl?
follow me here. Their
I guess I'm
RPMs are
not on
probably at about a
TikTok
dollar
enough.
and 50 per 1,000 views. So if they have a 12, 20, 30 million viewed video, that's getting them paid around 15,000, 32,000, 25,000. So the money is all going to the top tier creators. It's not going to the little creators anymore unless you're brand new and you had a video go viral. TikTok will then show you how much money you could potentially make, but then they will completely cut that off because they're out of money. You have to remember, you used to be getting paid from China, the biggest, the hugest, the most money in the entire world. China was paying you a livable wage. Now, America is in charge of the algorithm and paying you. America doesn't want to pay people a livable wage, nor do they want you to become wealthy, because once you're wealthy, you can't be controlled. And America is all about control. Hope that helps.
Yeah. Are we trading places with China? America is about control. I mean, that's what he's saying. I mean, I think it is to an extent, but China is definitely about control too, for sure. I mean, they're a communist dictatorship or a communist totalitarianism. I don't know what, how you describe. Yeah, I've heard it several ways, but they're basically a country controlled by one man. What Xi Jinping says is what's going to happen in the country. That's why Trump loves Xi Jinping, because he would love to be in that position to where whatever he says, everybody just bows down and does it. But unfortunately, he's in the US of A, and we're not that subservient. A dude with 15 million followers gets zero point zero 0.01 per thousand views. No, all the money is going to TikTok Shop, whereas Rewards has millions. I was wondering why TikTok was starting to suck. What? That sucks. Are you really telling the truths? Truths? We need to research this. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Sign up, subscribe. If you guys are new here, subscribe, follow, share. Okay, that's all I got to say for the TikTok. These are some funny ones about basically
How
this
can
guy
you
just talks about how
simultaneously at the
stupid
same time
Americans are,
be
which
so
amuses
pro
me.
education, teachers union, everything teachers, pretty much Democrats are teachers, but yet our nation just can't read and write, can't do math, can't do basic skills in school. We're more worried about teaching them histories that aren't real. Or
Why isn't that you don't know that, you know, democratic states tend to perform right up there with the best countries in the world when it
Yeah,
comes to
why is
education?
that?
And the reason our national numbers are
Because
so
you're
low
a
is
MAGA?
because of red states. Why don't you know that? Why don't you know that eighth grade math scores in Massachusetts are right there with Japan's? Why don't you know that students in Massachusetts, Vermont, New Jersey rank right up there with students from China, Japan, Singapore? Why don't you know that? So, if you want to know why the United States performs so poorly, I suggest you ask people in the red states because they are literally dragging down the rest of the country. Yeah, just like they do with welfare and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, guys. So the past 30 or 40 years, the goal of Republicans, conservatives, has been to dumb down the electorate so they could get their agenda passed to prop up billionaires. So what states do conservatives control? Red states. So they've basically taken apart the education system in red states, and like West Virginia, Kentucky, Missouri, all those states, Mississippi. If you look at the ranks of, in fact, let's go look at it right now. So now Florida's up there because they have great colleges, but those are not really public because they're not free. Okay, so here's the real list: Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Washington, Pennsylvania, Vermont, Minnesota, Connecticut, Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming. So, Wyoming's pretty good. So you have to go to 11th on the list before you get to a red state. And then Maryland, Maine, a purple state, Nebraska, 14th. Okay, Nebraska's not bad. Rhode Island, 15th, blue state, New Hampshire, bluish state, Illinois, blue state. Then 18th, you have South Dakota, red state, North Dakota, 19th, which are higher than I thought. 20th, so 18, 19, and 20 are red states. District of Columbia 21st, which is pretty bad. It's where the nation's capital is. You think they'd be better? Iowa, red state 22nd. Michigan 23rd. You think they would be higher? Then Missouri 24th. Kentucky 25th. Ohio 26th. Alaska 27th. Tennessee, Kansas, Georgia. Wow, there's so many more red states. Oregon 31st. It's a blue state. California 32nd. Blue state. Hawaii 33rd. Blue state. North Carolina. Colorado 35th. Yeah, I guess because Colorado's mostly rural and they don't have money for schools. So I know a lot of the counties in Colorado went to the 4-day school week so they could save money. So everybody's off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is great for the teachers. But it has lowered the level of success for the students. Utah, South Carolina, Mississippi 39th, Texas 40th, Florida's 41st. So I don't know how they got second on that other ranking. Louisiana, Indiana, which is a purple state, 43rd. Nevada, 44th. Arkansas, West Virginia, 46th, one of my adopted states. Idaho, 47th. If you're worse than West Virginia, that's pretty bad. New Mexico, 49th. Alabama and Arizona, 51st. Wow, how's Arizona so bad? Overall performance, let's see. Academic performance. Still the top 10, 6. Wyoming, 6th, 7th. So the top 5 or 10, and all of them are blue, except for that one we looked at that included colleges. I don't think you could really include colleges. So that backs up this guy's argument that no comment yet, guys.
Shit. Whether or not
Make
you're
sure
a
you
MAGA bot or a
subscribe,
Trump
like.
supporter, I'm going to go ahead and set all of you MAGA chuds straight on this fucking bullshit right here, right now. Open up your eyes, close your fucking mouths.
Nicole Good hit ICE officer Jonathan Ross with her car. I wasn't planning on making a video about this, but I keep seeing people saying either that the footage proves he wasn't hit or that it shows he was hit, and both of those can't be true at the same time. And I'll be honest, when I saw this clip, I thought, that really does look like he was hit. Maybe I was wrong. So I gathered a bunch of angles, synchronized them up in an editing software to look frame by frame at what happened, and it turns out we can arrive at a definitive conclusion, so we'll do that together. Now, I'm not going to show blood or gore, but this is a sensitive incident, so viewer discretion is advised. We start with this angle shot by bystander Caitlin Collinson, which shows Renee Nicole Good waving the first ICE car to pass in front of her, which they do. Then she waits for the second car to pass, but they stop and 2 ICE officers exit the vehicle. At this point, you can hear her say, "I'm pulling out." They tell her to get out of the car. They start yanking on the door handle and reach inside her vehicle. This already disproves claims by DHS head Kristi Noem, who said that she was belligerent towards them and attacked them as they were pushing their cars out in the snow. Now we get to this angle shot by Jonathan Ross himself, who's the ICE officer who killed Renee Nicole Good. Importantly, this was shot on a handheld smartphone, not a body cam. And when he passes in front of her car window, she tells him,
"That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you."
which further shows that she was being calm and polite and trying to de-escalate the situation so she could leave. As far as I understand, this is her wife, which you could argue is being slightly more confrontational, but 1, she has every right to be, and 2, she's not behind the wheel, so her behavior is not at issue at all. Moments before the shooting, you can see on Ross's camera that she's turning the steering wheel right. You can also see the wheels of the car turning right from the other angle as Ross steps out of the path of the vehicle. Okay, third angle, this was posted by ABC5 and ICE defenders say this shows Ross being hit. This is what is professionally referred to as potato quality footage. It's a blob of pixels, so it's really hard to see what's happening. But there's 3 really important things we can get from this footage. 1, the moment before the car purportedly hits him, if you synchronize the footage with the other angle, you can see that he was already outside of the path of the car. It only looks like he was hit because this is from the same angle as a Hollywood film would shoot an action scene to make it look like a punch connects with an actor's face. 2, despite the potato quality, as far as I can tell, these are his legs. I'm gonna highlight them in white so you can see what they're doing. You can see him shifting sideways as the car starts to move forward. Importantly, he stays on both feet for the entire incident, which contradicts claims saying that the footage shows one of his legs being swept up by the hood of the car. There's a 3D recreation of the incident by an NGO called Index Investigation based on the angle from the back. And based on the footage, they depict him leaning on the side of the hood as he's shooting in the side window, which is exactly what we can see in the potato video. And 3, this is the most important one. The snippet that is used from the potato video that is circulating most widely online as a case closed he was hit was tampered with. It doesn't have original sound, it's a less than 1 second clip playing on a loop, and it's been sped up to make it look like the car is going faster than it was. This is part of a deliberate disinformation campaign to change the narrative, so it's not your fault if you were misled by a clip.
Actually, I have seen that video a bunch of times, and that is true. That clip is sped up. Because the car was definitely not going that fast. She was going like 5 miles an hour. And I know the latest now from, DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, is they're saying that the Ross, the cop who shot the woman, it has internal bleeding, which I don't see how you could have internal bleeding. I'm an EMT, and I've seen lots of accidents, and I have seen a guy run himself over with his own truck who was internally bleeding. He basically got out of his truck to do something, and he left it in drive, and he walked in front of the truck, and it ran him over. And it was a big truck, bigger than that one. It was like a full-size Blazer or something like that, or Yukon. It was like a Yukon. And he did have internal bleeding and a busted spleen. We had to call a helicopter to get him out there. We were in the, in the back country in Colorado. I mean, there was roads, but they were dirt roads and stuff. And, basically on public lands in the far, the Bureau of Land Management land. So he could have internal bleeding, I suppose, from that, but it was going so slow.
That was tampered with. Finally, back to the officer's perspective, they say you can see him and hear him being hit by the car and that his body cam is knocked off. But remember, this isn't a body cam, it's a smartphone in his left hand. All you can see and hear is him pulling his gun out, using his left hand with his phone in it to lean on the hood of the car, and firing 3 times. And cherry on top, the last thing she said to him was,
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
and this is the first thing he said after killing her.
Good.
And it only got worse from there, where they didn't even try to give her first aid, and they prevented bystanders from helping her, including one who identified himself as a medical professional. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if I changed your mind.
I mean, there's so many issues with this shooting. First of all, these ICE guys, they shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be stopping people on the road, just to see if they're legal immigrants. They shouldn't be checking people's papers, so if they weren't there, this never would have happened. Another thing is, cops in general are, way too quick to pull out their weapons. And apparently these ICE agents are way undertrained. They don't get a lot of training because they're trying to, they just like doubled or tripled the size of the force in the past year. So they're trying to pump people out as quick as they can. And another thing is they're not doing good. They're not doing, everything I've read is they're not really doing background checks on these guys, or they're not vetting them enough. So you're getting these guys like, with anger issues, racists, people who have a beef with the people that they're policing. So it's a big problem. There's so many angles to this, and, I'm trying to give it some nuance. Maybe the guy did feel threatened 6 months ago. He was dragged by a car for, in the same situation. But at the same time, cops are trained not to escalate, and they're also trained never to stand in front of a car, especially when it's moving. And they're also trained that if somebody's trying to escape, you don't shoot them in the face. You let them get away and go pick them up at another time. That was a big thing I remember years ago with chases, with, cops, having car chases. Now these days they're taught to not chase the people where, like you see in the movies, like, Beverly Hills Cop, where they crash 1 million cars and, there's a bunch of other cars crashing, So basically they don't want to do chases so innocent people don't get caught up and killed in the chase, So it's easier, especially with the technology today, to just take a snapshot or a photo. They have their body cams or their car cams of the other car and go pick them up later at home when they're sitting there watching TV. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?